Hi, welcome to the Red Booth Show. Tonight's episode features filmmaker Jimmy Loweree. He has a new movie called Absence that's been released, and he also has a few new projects coming out as well. So watch our interview. So hello, Jimmy. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Merry Christmas.
Indeed. Very festive.
I know you had this movie that just came out recently, Absence. And you guys also got it distributed on Netflix and, so...
The whole shebang.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
Yeah, it's been a really good experience. It was a film that we made with a bunch of, just close friends and friends and family, money, the whole thing. And we were able to get distribution and, small theatrical, and then now it's on everything else, Netflix and VOD and the whole thing.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Were you the one that wrote the script in the beginning, or who?
It was an idea I had, and I co-wrote with a good friend of mine, Jake Moreno. Yeah.
So you guys came up with the idea, put together the script, and then went to family and friends, or how did you guys go about doing it?
Well, initially, and this is kind of standard, I guess, for this industry, but initially we had this idea and we hadn't really developed. We knew what the idea was, but we hadn't really written anything yet.
Yeah.
And then we had heard wind.
And the idea is kind of creepy, you guys. I just have to tell you.
I like the idea. It's a solid idea.
Yeah. Do you want to say a little quick synopsis, I guess?
Sure.
Okay.
It's about a woman who's 7 months pregnant, and she wakes up one day and she's not pregnant anymore. The baby's gone. There's no explanation. There's no reason. The doctors can't explain it. And of course, her and her husband are pretty messed up about it. And so it follows from that point about 3 months later forward. I mean, it was always a very messed up idea, which I liked.
Yeah, no, it's totally, yeah. As soon as you hear the concept, you're like, what?
Yeah.
The poster for it was kind of like really eye-catching.
Yeah, that was a really cool experience because so we got this distribution deal, and that company brought in this marketing.
Which company was it?
Cinedigm was the company that took it out.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So they took it out domestically and internationally. So they took the whole thing. It was great.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And so they were doing the poster?
Well, we were getting the poster designed, and they brought in a company, and it happened to be a good friend of mine who I had known for a couple of years at that point, and I didn't know that they worked together. And,
oh, wow.
And Cinedigm was one of their clients, so it was really cool to be able to get feedback with someone I was already hoping to get to work with.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It is a small world, isn't it?
It is indeed. Yeah. They did a great job. I was super happy with the poster.
So you're getting it distributed, obviously, worldwide. Are you able to, get a lot of royalties off of that? Or, how, what can people hope for on their first movie in that way?
I mean, it depends on I guess, how wide your film is distributed. It really depends on the marketing more than anything else.
Totally.
And we were very lucky to have a film that we made with, at the time, no connections or relationships in the industry, and it took a while to, build that rapport with people and then kind of get the film out. But it's making money, and people are watching it, and it's a really cool experience to have people that I know and don't know see it, and it's really awesome. Something that you
totally
did on your own, and just your blood, sweat, and tears with good friends, and then all of a sudden, anyone can watch it.
How much did it cost for you guys to make that movie?
We made it for about $50,000.
Wow.
Which is, but for me, it was like, oh, that's not a little bit of money. It's a fair amount of money, but in the industry, it's nothing at all.
Right.
Yeah, so we definitely made the dollar stretch quite a bit. So pulled a lot of favors. We got very lucky with our location, and PJ, who also produced it, was able to get us a location through a friend of his, and it was just a really fortunate situation.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What did you guys shoot it on?
We shot the entire thing on little Canon 5Ds.
Wow. Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
I love the whole way that you guys did it to make it seem like sort of just like the guys just sort of recording it.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. That style can be very divisive just because it's been done a lot in the past couple of years. But the whole idea.
It's like found footage. That's the
right. That's the style, and it gets a lot of hate and it gets a lot of love depending on who you're asking.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think it's more so in this particular case. It served the idea. It helped the story in a way that I felt was organic and not forced. Although a lot of movies get made and it is forced, and then you're like, oh, that's kind of crappy. But that's true for anything, though. Any film that isn't being done with integrity, of itself, at least within the confines of that story, it could be kind of not fun to watch.
Yeah. Well, I watched it. I thought it was amazing, and you guys did a really great job, and special effects was really good too.
Yeah, we pulled off some miracles in that area too.
Yeah, that's probably where most of your budget went, I'm guessing.
It was an intense couple of we finished up the last 2 days of the shoot with all that stuff, and that was really heavy days, but it was a blast.
That's awesome.
Yeah, lots of fun.
And I know you're obviously doing a lot more stuff as well now. I mean, I think this was your first feature.
Correct.
And now you've been just going on writing scripts and doing more projects. So
yeah, it's been a good. The best part about not the best part, but one of the great things about having a movie that you actually were able to get distributed is you're able to continue to build more relationships and ideally keep working. And I've gotten lucky in that regard, and I've been able to write on assignment for a couple different producers now, and that's been a really interesting, good experience, and been able to focus on stuff that I want to develop as well. So it's been a busy year, which has been really great.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Didn't you just have a little short film that came out recently too?
It's not out yet. I did just finish a short film.
Oh, okay.
3 weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
4 weeks ago.
I
I
remember-
produced a short film
Yeah.
for a good friend of mine with a bunch of other friends, Georgia King.
I think that might have been the
Okay,
one.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
a film that she wrote and directed, and she did a fantastic job.
What was the name of that one?
It's called Your Hands.
Your Hands.
Yeah,
Cool.
and so that'll be probably out in the next little while, beginning of the year, I think. It's all done. We're doing some selective submissions and such.
So you're just going a festival route and trying to get it into some different places and
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly.
All right,
Which has
cool.
been that was also you have the right group of friends and you can pull off kind of miracles. We were able to shoot. The whole thing takes place on a subway car.
Wow.
So we couldn't,
That's good. One location.
Yeah, but also we couldn't no one had a subway car in their backyard. So we had to
Yeah.
figure that out, and we were able to through some some wheeling and dealing we shot it at CBS on one of their
really?
sound stages, and they had an old subway car that they used for props. I think it was the Seinfeld car.
Oh, wow.
And so they let us use it, and it was really a really cool experience.
What's the premise?
It's about a girl who's just breaking up with her. It's a comedy, a drama with some comedy.
Cool.
And it's about a girl who is just breaking up with her boyfriend, and it kind of has a very challenging effect on her in terms of emotionally, and it's all kind of surreal on this subway car.
Wow. So
Yeah.
she's sort of dealing with it and processing it.
Yeah, and you're kind of watching her go through it, and it's very much hyper realistic in a really cool way.
That's awesome. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I'll definitely pass it along.
Cool. Was this your very first project that you'd ever done in the film industry, or had you already been sort of doing stuff in the film industry before that, or?
I got into it in kind of I wasn't planning on it. I was playing more music and kind of focusing on that. And then one day my buddy Jake was like, if you ever want to write something together, we should try that, because we were just hanging out. And I was like, that's a silly idea. And then I had an idea for something not long after, and we sat down and I had a blast just, figuring out what that story was with him. And then we went out and shot a little short based on that. And it was a really fun experience. It had as hectic as it was, it didn't have any personal stress for me. It was just having fun.
Yeah.
Which was really neat to experience, because I hadn't really.
That's the way it should be.
It should.
Yeah.
Yeah, it shouldn't have any extra, unnecessary, mental pressures. It should just be. Obviously, you should push yourself in whatever you do, but I don't know. It was just kind of fun.
That's cool.
Yeah. So then I kind of got hooked, and we started doing more stuff, and then not long after, very soon after, we wrote the feature and then got it made.
That's so cool. Did you learn how to write the script yourself? Did you actually type it out and stuff with him, or use Final Draft and just sort of
Yeah.
winged it?
Kind of. I mean, like I said, I had I wasn't I had told stories before I'd written and such, but
Yeah.
I had never scripted anything. So we both kind of just dove head in and just started kind of figuring out how to do it, and read your standard books to get some idea of what would be a good way to structure it.
Right.
But we knew what the story was.
Right.
And so I think we just cut it in half and just took pieces, and then we put it all together, and then kind of made sure it all communicated as one voice, and then did passes each other, and it was really fun.
That's awesome, because you also to have someone else with you writing
Yeah.
it. I can imagine that's really, really helpful, actually.
Co-writing is a blast because, I don't know, for me, you get to bounce ideas off of someone, and it's less like in your head about it. And also, you push each other. So if one person has an idea and the other person isn't quite up on that idea or like on the same page or thinks it's not quite as good as it could be, they push it and they make you figure out a way to make that the best version of an idea I think it can be, at least that you can come up with together. So it's good. Instead of it being like, oh, I think this is good. It's like, that's okay. What if we did this? And then you kind of figure it out.
That's cool. I think that's a really good tip for people like maybe who are trying to get into this or having maybe a little bit of like hesitancy, like find someone else to work with you on it is a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, even if you don't want to co-write, you can definitely get with somebody and figure out a good balance of input and so you're not having to sit there in your own head and figure out if it works. You can get someone telling you what works for them, and then you can kind of learn.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's a good process.
So now how many scripts have you written now?
Probably 7, 8, something like that.
That's so cool. It's like become your big time day job now. You're like Mr. Scriptwriter.
It's nice to work in art and be able to do it.
And get paid for it.
Yeah, to survive. It's really nice.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
I'm very fortunate in that regard. It's like a really cool circumstance.
Well, what sort of advice do you have for people who want to get into that?
I guess what got me into it was working with friends. And so I think, and this is kind of a common thing that people know, but you really have to make an effort, and that's find people you want to work with who have similar sort of drives and purposes, and build a little group and get to work. My group is like the best people in the world, and we're all very supportive and make sure we're all kind of moving in the direction we want to move. And then it's an investment in yourself, but it's also an investment in people you want to see do well. And I think that's really, especially early on, really important. So you're not like by yourself trying to, hope that it works. You have some support.
Totally.
Yeah, that's one of the first things. And the other thing is,
that's good advice.
Yeah, I think people forget that like you can do it with a team.
It seems like it would be a lot better to do it with a team, honestly. It's a lonely journey on your own trying to make it out there, especially in filmmaking. It's such a group effort, right?
It is. In that sphere, for sure, it's definitely, you can't do it alone at all, really.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have people you can rely on that you really want to work with. Other than that, I would say probably the most important thing one can do as an artist is you have to realize that you're as soon as you ask for money as an artist, you're now a business, and you're not an artist only. There's two different jobs. One's creating art, and one is selling art, if you want to get paid, which you don't have to. But if you do that, you have to know that it is a job, and it takes time. It takes full time. So if you don't treat it that way, if you don't go out and if you opened up a shop and never told anybody that it exists or what the product was, and never talked to anybody about it and treated it like a full-time job, you would not exist.
Right.
So I think
out of business.
Exactly. So it's important to realize it's the exact same thing in art, no matter what you're doing, whether you're creating music or you're acting or painting or whatever. You have to treat it like a job and do both parts, not just the art.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of people out there who are doing that and not making it into money.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for how to get something like picked up, I could say? Like a movie, maybe get distribution or things like that you've been successful at.
The shitty advice, but it's the truth, is persistence. You just can't quit. You have to continue to do it. It's just the way it is.
High five.
Yeah, exactly, right?
You gotta keep on going.
You can't quit. That's the truth.
It's like who's left standing, right?
That's exactly right.
That's how it is.
Yeah, I mean, you see people all around in this industry who you admire, and in any industry, and they've been doing it. And maybe they've gotten breaks, but it didn't come from lack of work.
Right.
They weren't like walking down the street and then all of a sudden they had a career. They worked to get it.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of work.
Yeah, and I think even when you do hear one of those weird stories of someone who just suddenly got found somewhere, I mean, that's really the very few examples of what's really out there.
That's true. I would argue that even in those cases, that person was working. That person was making an effort. Very rarely is it just like
Random.
completely out of the blue. They were working towards it, and then, maybe they got lucky, but more often than not, it's just the guy working hard. So that's the main thing is getting it, continuing until you get what you want.
Keep it going out there and doing it.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So what other projects are you looking to do in the future?
It's been a good year, so I've been writing a lot, and I want to get,
For other people, mostly?
Yeah, which is great. And then also, writing my own stuff as well.
Yeah.
Ideally, in the next few months, I'll be able to focus on that stuff. But I helped work on a film that we shot out in New York, which we're now in the process of kind of like submitting and doing some work on, and that's been really
good.
fun. Yeah.
It's finished? It's like through post and everything? Mm-hmm. What's that one called?
It's called Keep in Touch, and it was written by a really good friend of mine, Mike Cavino, and directed by another friend, a guy named Sam Kretschmar, and they did a really lovely job, and it's well done. So it's going to be great to see that, all that hard work with so many people that I care about who put their hearts into it and have that come out. That'd be great.
How long did that one take you guys?
All told, they shot part of it the year before, and then we went and did the rest of it in December and January of last year and the beginning of this year.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, it was in New York, and it was very cold.
I was going to say, were you trying to get snow going on there?
It was. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a winter film, so we got lucky with a lot of really intense weather. It looks great. It was just very cold.
Wow. What's the basic synopsis of that movie?
It's about a guy who's trying to put his life together after having gone to jail for involuntary manslaughter. Whoa. So he's on parole and he's trying to put his life together, and he goes back to his town where he grew up and kind of becomes obsessed with the girl that as he's growing up with, and it's just kind of follows him and his journey. But it's like a dramedy. It's great.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
I really hope that you guys get that movie distributed soon.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, we'll be keeping an eye out.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm guessing you're probably going to try Netflix because you've already had a film for Netflix, so...
Yeah, I mean, Netflix was, Cindy and I who sold our film, they sold it to Netflix amongst, they also put it on Amazon and iTunes, and they distributed all the DVDs, the whole thing. One of the coolest experiences I had when I was actually in New York is I had a day off, and I was at a Barnes & Noble with a friend, and we saw our movie, like, for sale, and I was like, oh, this is so rad, I'm going to buy my own movie. Yeah, so I bought it. It was great. I bought a Blu-ray copy of my own movie.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was super funny.
So it's all over in all like Barnes and Nobles and places like that, and Amazon and everywhere.
Yeah. It's out. Yeah. It's cool to see that.
And it's translated into all these other countries.
I mean, yeah, they're selling territory by territory, and I'm not sure which ones require like dubbing or not. Some of them do, and some of them just do subtitles.
Right. Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
I really wanted to put a deck on my house.
The floor was creaking, and there were cracks in the wall.
I had them put in walls in my basement.
Well, the whole thing was done on time, on budget, and not a day of work was missed.
Alpha Structural is a top-rate company. I'd recommend them to anybody.
If you live in a hillside home and gravity is pulling you towards the edge of the cliff, I recommend you call Alpha.
It was a real pleasure to work with Alpha.
Welcome back to the show. We are here with filmmaker Jimmy Loweree. So I thought that it would be good for you to give some people your advice on distribution in today's market.
Sure. Like I was saying earlier, I think it's really important to treat everything you're doing on the business side like a business, right? So you need to know, first and foremost, who your market is, who your audience is. I think that really helps in terms of when you're trying to get distribution and someone to be on board with, selling your film, because they're going to put money into it. They're going to advertise it, and that costs money just by itself. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have a strategy or a plan or some concept of who you're trying to communicate with as an audience goes, it's not really easy to see. So if you can answer those questions ahead of time and go to someone and know who you're trying to reach and how to reach them and have an effective idea of what to do, that really, really helps. And that's something you should think about from the beginning.
Before you even start filming.
I mean, maybe not before you start filming, but you should, if you can, yeah, from all the way from the beginning, you should have a very clear idea of what the home is. And maybe it's a very specific market, and that's fine, like, because it can go to that market, and at least they know there's an audience for it.
Yeah.
But if you're just kind of like, well, I'm making something, and I hope people will want to watch it someday.
There's so many people that do that, and then they don't sell their movie.
And then they're surprised, yeah.
And yeah, it's a bummer.
It is.
It's a sad thing.
But that's true for anything. You make a short film, you should have an idea of who your audience is,
Right.
so you can reach that audience. Whether you're doing it or you're having someone come on board to distribute it, there should be a clear-cut way to get to an audience.
So like when you were doing this Absence, were you kind of like, this is a good teenage flick, or like were you thinking like this, like what sort of market were you trying to go for?
Well, there's a reason that a lot of filmmakers start in the horror space, and that's just because it has a built-in audience. People like horror movies. It's kind of like straightforward. In the same way that like you could reasonably say that romantic comedies have a very strong female audience. There's a very strong and big horror fan base. And there are fanatics, and there are people who are really into it, and there are just average people who like to watch horror movies. So it's kind of an easy place to be. And yeah, it's a younger audience for sure.
Yeah.
Which is fine. It's easy it's good.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the distribution companies will probably look at that and they'll be like, okay, this one is found footage and it's teenage sort of, or younger audience and horror, and then bam.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
answer the questions for them. And it's the same thing for any part of it. So, it is a great time for indie film because there are so many outlets, and it might be daunting, but,
Yeah.
YouTube has its own, like, film channel that is acquiring and, like, puts movies out. Amazon now does it. Vimeo has its own professional.
right,
So there's so many, like, very young and independent distribution platforms along with the regular big ones.
It's really interesting to me because back in like, I think about 2000, I think it was between 2006 and 2008, I was working in that sort of field with distribution. And at that time, you had to go to one of the big companies, and that was pretty much it. And you had to have names, and they would just sort of run it through their calculator.
That's right.
And be like, okay, you have this person's name, okay, that's going to be worth this much. And that was kind of how they based it. And if you didn't have that, then you were sort of like up the creek.
Yeah.
In a way.
It hasn't changed. That part hasn't changed. But there are ways for you to get your film or whatever it is out without that if you need to. It does. I mean, again, it's a business, so they know that certain people certain talent
Will attract attention.
Yeah, certain audiences want to see them, which makes total sense. It's a business.
Yeah.
So I get that. But also, if, let's say, like, that's why horror was a good idea, because it doesn't matter. You don't need a celebrity in your film because they don't particularly care. Audiences don't care if it's a famous person in a horror movie. Not that it would hurt, but it doesn't really matter.
Right.
Whereas,
It just has to have a really good, scary story.
yeah, it has to be effective. It has to do what it's supposed to do.
Right.
But it's still kind of the same. The difference is just you have more options now, and you can, if you're smart and you build up an audience even before you've approached distribution, people who want to see your film,
Yeah.
that's a shoo-in because they know that there's people who want it already.
So you guys went to Cinedyne, is that what it's called?
Cinedyme.
Cinedyne.
Yeah.
You guys went to Cinedyne.
Yeah.
And you pitched it to them.
Yeah, we had some friends who had done stuff with them in the past, and we went in and they had seen the film, and we kind of had a clear idea of what we would like to do marketing wise, and they were a great partner and a great team, and it was a really good experience.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I'm so happy for you. And did you ever try going to like AFM or any of that stuff?
I mean, I know I've been to AFM, and as far as like trying to pitch my film that way, no, not really. I've taken meetings during AFM and such, but I never really did like the gauntlet, I guess, where it's kind of a crazy.
Yeah.
It's insane, but
Like from room to room to room with your DVD.
yeah. But if you're able to, it is important to build relationships on the industry side because it is a business. So, and do that in the most natural way you can, and hopefully that's helpful. That's definitely a good way to do it. I definitely don't think walking up to somebody and like handing them a DVD is the smartest move. because no one necessarily likes that.
No.
So I never did any of that. No.
That's true. I probably would feel a little bit funny. So what would you recommend going if someone was going to AFM, for example?
I mean, the standard stuff to do if you have a film that is that you want to get out and doesn't have distribution yet would be you can submit to festivals. That's an obvious way to do it. You can a really smart thing to do is to cut a trailer or a sizzle reel that really shows the best parts of the film. That way, someone can watch it easily and quickly
Without having to watch the whole thing.
That's right. Like
Yeah.
you need to prove that it's worth them watching the whole movie on, and they have time and they have a lot of stuff to read, a lot of stuff to watch. So the smartest thing you can do is have a very clear-cut marketing piece, which would be a trailer, maybe a pitch deck that says like what the film is about and the kind of film it is and the kind of film it works as and who the audience would be, all those things kind of concisely stated. And that way someone can look at it and go, oh, okay, this makes sense. Let's talk about it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about the night you lost your baby?
Everything was really normal,
Ma'am, we'd like to ask you a couple questions if that's all right.
Can you just talk to this radio?
except him.
Not put your hands up!
I just wasn't pregnant anymore.
So we're on our way to the cabin. This trip is obviously, part vacation and part therapy for Liz.
The only person that might know is Lizzie, and she can't remember anything. I don't know what happened. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Honestly, this isn't normal. Who has this in their living room?
You were freaked out. You were seriously scared.
That, right there.
Woo! You know what that is?
What's that?
That's the sound of a fire truck coming because you're burning those burgers. Like that, Liz? Lizzie?
Are you okay, Liz? Oh my God.
Is she okay? What is wrong with her?
If anything hurts or anything happens, you gotta tell me, okay?
Just promise that you won't give up on me. I'm sorry.
Rick! What are we gonna do, man?
I don't know, all right? I don't know.
Stop!
Hey, baby, we're going home.
Don't let me.
What happened?
Well, I'm so glad that you got to come on my show.
Me too.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to your new movies that's coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And, we'll definitely keep tabs on you. And we're really excited for all of your writing career and everything. So congratulations.
Well, thanks. This was super fun.
Cool.
Okay.
Thanks for watching filmmaker Jimmy Loweree on
The Red Booth.